And we're back. Gaati, I like this little men's win streak we have going on.
I'm loving it as well. I'll start with the women. First of all, this was a bittersweet week for us. We split the week at home during Valentine's Day. We won versus Grambling 73-63. Diana Rosenthal had a great game, knocking down 25 points and Kennedy Hurd. But then we went over to UAPB and we fell by 5 points. Really tough loss. Diana with double digits, 13 points, and Kennedy Paul, 11. The ladies still are doing very well within conference. I think right now we're in the 3rd position. So we're slowly climbing, but we really just have to have a perfect performance moving forward. Senior night is approaching. SWAC conference tournament is approaching. So, we have really small margins for error here. But yes, on the men's side, we're really proud of the guys. They pulled out 2 wins versus Grambling, another nail biter, won by 1 point. William Douglas had 23 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 blocks, and 3 steals. Jeremiah Gambrell, who was our SWAC player of the week, had 17 points. Dwayne Cox gave us 14 points. And then Jawan Daniels, our leader, who we had on the podcast last week, had a double-double with 12 points and 12 rebounds and added 5 assists into it. So really good performance. We're going to continue to support the Panthers. And I want to hear what you guys have to say before I move forward, because I'm really excited about this episode today.
So the first question I have is with the men. A couple of weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, they were outside the top 8, or those that needed to get into the conference. Now you look at them, they're them and what? Alabama A&M, they're sitting at 7-7. They're like number 6 in the conference. What do you think their chances are now? Do they look better in terms of, who's going to make that conference? Who's going to make that all-around SWAC conference? Who's going to be that top 8, that 9 group that makes it into it? We were singing a different story 2 or 3 weeks ago. Do you feel different?
Well, I definitely feel different, especially after speaking with Jawan Daniels and hearing about the wolf mentality that is permeating on the team. I have a lot of confidence, as we do for our men's basketball team, being defending 3-time champs. It's really hard to come out and perform like that again. So whatever we have to do, pull ourselves up by the bootstraps. These guys are doing it, and it's seeming like it's working. We have a game on Monday and then come back home for senior night. So just like on the women's side, there's little room for error, but I have faith that we'll make it into the conference tournament.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're in really good shape, as you talk about. They're getting back to their winning ways, continue to play well on defense. But the other thing is good is they're tied, as you said, with Alabama A&M at 7-7, but they had the head-to-head tiebreaker. And so in seeding, that becomes important. But these last 4 games, including the one on Monday on the road and coming back, and it looks like that final game on the road against Texas Southern University is going to be important, not just for seeding for Prairie View, but it may be a chance for the Prairie View A&M Panthers to knock Texas Southern out of a chance of getting a championship, whether it's individual or co-championship. So a lot going on in these last 4 games.
Oh, how things switch. A year ago, Prairie View won the regular season. Who knocks us out? So
Texas.
It's funny how time works. And as far as the women, let's not leave them. They're in the mix. They may have lost us last game, but they've won 4 of their last 5. So what do you feel about their chances?
Oh, well, making it to the tournament, that's no question. You definitely want to stay at the top of the conference to make sure that you have the smoothest ride possible through the tournament, if that's a thing. But yeah, these women, I think they're really locking in. Diana Rosenthal is really stepping up and leading this team every game. The Kennedys are interchanging. We talk about defense. They're really strong. It's just we have to win on the road, and we have to just continue to stay locked in.
So that March 5th game,
Yep.
Prairie View A&M at TSU. Basically,
Yep.
you saying you better get your ticket ASAP.
Exactly.
That's
I'm
going
just-
to be sold
I'm thinking the
out.
same thing. You better have your ticket right there.
It's gonna be ugly.
That's going to be a nice atmosphere.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh my goodness. I wish I could be there. Seriously. Yeah, but so yes, let's transition a little bit because as I mentioned, today is a very special episode. As we know, is Black History Month or Black Future Month, whatever you want to say. And I like your background there, Roland. Yes, but we have some very special guests on the show today who will be interviewing some former Prairie View basketball alumni. And our first interviewee, we're speaking with Bea Washington Philips. Are you there, Bea?
Good afternoon. How is everyone?
Great.
Good.
Great. How are
good,
you?
good, good.
Doing well.
I'm well, thank you.
Yes, well, thank you for joining us today. Yes, so just a little bit about Bea. Bea Philips is a community service officer from TSU. She completed her bachelor's degree in criminal justice at Prairie View and her master's in administrative justice at TSU. While in her undergrad year, Bea was afforded a full basketball scholarship to Grambling State University, where she played 2 years before transferring to Prairie View. Bea was a police officer, spending most of her time at Harris County Sheriff's Department. While she was an officer, her and her husband purchased a business, a members-only tennis club in West Houston. In her spare time, Bea has been mentoring young girls and young women, and she is an independent consultant and plans to continue to follow the path of a public servant in the Houston area. She is an active member and supporter of Grambling State and Prairie View women's basketball alumni groups, and a master peace officer. She's also a proud Diamond Life member of the Houston alumni chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Incorporated. And
Ooh.
we got some Deltas on the air. And enjoys modeling for TJ Sophisticated Modeling Troupe, where she served as a president and has been awarded Outstanding Woman of Law Enforcement and recognized in Small Business Association. We're so happy to have you here today.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yes. So the first question I want to ask you is, if you were to characterize basketball and athletics at Prairie View when you played on the Hill, what are some words or things that come to mind?
When I played on the Hill, it was determination, grit. I mean, the stick-to-itiveness, if that is a word, the loyalty, just the teamwork.
Yeah, understood. Okay. Well, you know, initially when I met you my freshman year, it was really great to see you and the several former women basketball players always there to support us, whether it was at the games, at homecoming, and then after graduation, playing with you and against you in alumni basketball games during homecoming. That has been really amazing. When did you all start this tradition, and what does that mean to you?
So it started maybe, I say now, it may have been about 10 or 15 years ago. That was at the time my husband and I owned a tennis club, and my oldest son traveled with him a lot. And so when I would come home, I needed to be around my girls, the basketball girls. And one of my teammates, ex-teammates, told me that there was a playoff game. I mean, like a pickup, not a pickup game, but you know, there was a game every homecoming that Thursday. The men and women would get together. I could not conceptualize it because all of us were 30, almost 30 years plus away from the sport. But I went one time and fell in love with it. And then I equaled that to my roommate and I, we would go to homecoming when I was in town. And we went to homecoming, and you know, the tailgating, and let me tell you something, Prairie View's tailgating is unmatched. And we went to tailgating, and her mom had an RV, and she was sitting in there, baby, y'all want to eat? You want something? And we looked at one another, we said, you know what, we need to do this. And so we started talking to a couple of the basketball girls, and that along with playing the basketball games, we just decided one year we were going to get an RV, and let me tell you, it's grown since then, and that's something that we love to do. It was initially my frame of mind was for me to release from my son, you know, mentally, to be able to get with my girls so I can relax. And now that's just something that we do we look forward to it every year, and we've just made it larger. We've expanded it. We initially talked to the basketball coaches. We always made sure we had a rapport with the basketball coach at that time, whoever that coach is, and get to know them. We talk to the team. We have our RV. We've even made it to where everybody knows us because we have our little grass area. Now we have our big banner, says TSU Women Basketball Alumni on there. And the men and women come and they eat, and we have a donation form. It's just something that we love to do. We love giving back.
Yeah, well, I definitely want to personally thank you for that, because I've benefited myself. And I know the ladies, as we're going through the experience, it feels good to have support of players
Absolutely.
that came before you. Mike, did you have a question?
Yeah, and so thank you first for coming on, and it's a pleasure to meet you. Certainly, I am one who's considers myself somewhat old school, so I can understand the affinity for tailgate. I also have, much to the chagrin of my coworkers here, a degree from Texas Southern University. So my question to you is, as you see this game, and as you see how Prairie View's matriculating and how TSU's playing, do you see any changes? Do you see anything that makes you go, lace up the sneakers? It's like, you know what? They didn't do it like that when I played. I want to come back. These are some of the changes, or do you see the changes that are taking place as really good? I mean, tell us what your thoughts are.
So of course we know the game has changed. I look at the times when we played, we did not have the fancy locker rooms.
Right.
We did not have all the amenities that they have now. As a matter of fact, we love to say that we built Prairie View's athletic department.
Amen.
For the students. We love to bring that up. If it wasn't for us, there would be no you guys. So those are things that we love to say, because we did not have it. We had to work harder. We stayed in the gym until coach got tired. Now they can only be in the gym so long for the whole week, so many hours. I think we were grittier then. I want to say that our basketball IQ, even though the players are better, they're stronger, they're taller, they're faster now, we were smarter then because our basketball IQ, we had the fundamentals down, where they don't have the fundamentals, not so much now. I work at Texas Southern. I got my degree there, but I also work there. And I'm at every basketball game. And I'm sitting on the sideline saying, Coach, just put me in the game. Please, because mentally, you want to get in there, and I want to block somebody out. I want to show somebody how to block out for a rebound.
Yeah.
I keep,
and that's basketball 101. That's basketball 101. Certain things, it's like, well, what are you doing? Those things we should know to do. But so those are things I think that the generation now is missing. And those are things that we knew we had to do to be successful back 30 years ago.
Oh, thank you so much.
Officer Phillips, I know we talk about that Prairie View spirit while we undercover over there in Third Ward.
Absolutely.
You do a great job representing over there. And as you said, I see the pride that you have. And certainly I see you on the bench looking like you're ready to get in. But I was not aware of the modeling. That kind of took me surprised there, but I can see it. But I was amazed. Tell us a little more about how you actually got into that.
You know what? When I graduated from college, I just kind of went out there and just did a lot of. I was never a girly girl. Never girly girl. Didn't like the girly girls. So I went off to. I was working in the prison. I worked at the Texas prison, right? Mm-hmm. And so I don't know. I was looking up, I don't even know. I think I was looking for a job and I saw it in the ads where they had modeling, where they had modeling classes. So I went to a modeling school and I took up modeling and acting, but in the same vein, and these were, these were with the Caucasians, right? So in the same vein, I had, I don't even know how I hooked up with this other group with us. And they were like, hey, you want to come over here and model? And so what I did, I'm going to show you how I did this. I didn't know what in the world I was doing. I'm just out of college. I was a former athlete, so I thought I could just do anything. My body was still okay. So I said, okay, let me go over here. And I started modeling with the Black people. And the Black people were showing me, okay, yeah, you do this, you do this, do this. And then when I started modeling with the white people, they would say, oh, you're great. I had no idea, but it was just one of those things you kind of learn as you went. So I started that way and fell in love. It fell in love with it. And it's something that I did. And if I had the time now, I would still do it. I just don't have the time.
I love the history. I love the connection. Thank you for
I
sharing.
love that. Thanks for sharing that.
Absolutely.
Hi, Coach. Joe Clay here. Got one question for you. Who did you coach? Who was your head coach at the time when you played at Prairie View? And how do you compare the coaching that you received to the coaching that you see now at either PV or TSU?
So my coach, first of all, was, we call him Bobby Fresh. Bob Atkins. Love Bob Atkins. May he rest in peace.
Bobby Fresh.
Yeah,
Bobby Fresh. Yeah. We had some names for him. But
Bobby Fresh.
Bobby
There's a
Fresh,
name for you.
we call him, I'm not going to even go to the other one, but yeah, we call him Bobby Fresh. And he was personable. He was personable. And I'm sure these coaches are now to their students and to their athletes. But Coach Atkins, to me, I could see Coach Atkins, and this was even before I knew he was ill. I would still see him at TSU because, I worked there. And I was always at the games, and he would always, we still joked about the same stuff we joked about in the 90s. In the 80s, late 80s and 90s, it was the same jokes, and we would sit up there and cut up. So it was just a personableness with this coach. Now with the coaching part, see, Coach Atkins was a football player, and he just coached women's basketball. So I think that the coaches now, just like the basketball players are better players, I think the coaches, there are different techniques that they learn how to do, and that makes them better per se. But it's to have that relationship with the player, to me, was, that was, you couldn't beat that one with a stick. All my coaches I had a relationship with them.
Nice.
Awesome.
Wonderful. So you mentioned working at the prison. And so here at 1876, we're all about sports and culture. So Looking at your history, I see the relationship between the community and law enforcement. We've been witnessing the challenges in that relationship even more since the pandemic and ongoing on both the national and state level. Since the war on drugs, one of the largest themes of characterization of the Black community or culture has been gang violence, gang culture and affiliation. And in the streets, there's like a code, snitches get stitches, all that stuff. But we see among law enforcement, there's a similar blue code, and it seems to mirror kind of like, the gangs, where you see wrongdoing in law enforcement, you can't even speak on it. And we often hear that the overwhelming majority of officers and believe are good, and it's just a few bad apples that are causing these problems. For example, and we briefly mentioned it, how the rookie cops from the George Floyd case are on trial for not intervening, and the verdict is still out. But in 2006, a former police officer, Carol Horn, a Black woman who served 19 years on the force, was fired without pension for trying to stop a fellow officer for administering a chokehold on a handcuffed suspect. Since then, last year she was awarded her pension, but who can imagine what that journey has done to her? So my question is the Blue Code a significant barrier to the relationship between the Black community and law enforcement? And if so, what can be done institutionally to make it more possible for the good apples to get rid of the bad apples, so to speak, in your opinion?
So the blue line is what they call it. And we don't, it's the brother code. You don't snitch on your fellow law enforcement officer. Times have seriously changed, and they're changed for the better. The way I look at it is that before I am a police officer, I am a mother, and I have 2 Black sons. And just like any other mother or anybody else would want to have their children to come home, I would too. So just like that sister in New York, or where was she, in New Jersey? Where was she? In the Bronx.
Buffalo, New York.
She was in Buffalo. Just like she tried to do in my pocket, in my pant pocket. Just like she would, just like she tried to do, I think anybody. See, back then you had the good old boy system, right? And it's still to a certain extent right now. But for the most part, everything is changing. And the biggest thing that's making that change is this. So you throw this out on somebody, I don't care what the good old boy system says. This, my coach used to say, an eye in the sky don't lie. So that little recording says a mouthful, where whatever I say and whatever I put on that report, that's neither here nor there. But I do believe that it's changing, it's slowly changing. And like I said, I'm a mother first before I'm anything else. And if it came down to me to, and being on a college campus right now, I'm a mother to however many students we have over there.
Yeah, that's true. Yep.
You understand what I'm saying? I'm a police officer, and I will get in that behind, or we will go to jail. It's up to you, you know, and it's up to the crime. We have that discretion, yes, but understand me, I don't want to send any Black person to jail, anybody to jail, if it is not warranted, right? And so when we see it happening, there's a lot of people that talk now as to where they didn't. If they saw it, they would turn their face to it. They would act like they wouldn't see it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for answering that question. I know it's a bit heavy, but you know, like we just, these type of topics are so important to us and the community and to the show. So thank you for answering that. And thank you so much for joining us and sharing your stories with us. It's so special. We appreciate it so much. Thank
you. I enjoyed this. And you know, Prairie View, I love the Hill. So anything for the Hill. Dr. Cavill knows, everybody says you work for TSU. How can you differentiate? I say, respect my check.
I like that.
There it is.
Well, that answers my question.
Don't want none, don't be none, don't want no.
That's right, that's right. Respect the check and we'll be good. Because understand this, when we play Prairie View, I'll be in my uniform. If you come to the game, I will be on the floor 9 times out of 10. But if you ask me, if I open up that shirt, it's gonna have a little PV, little something going on underneath.
We gonna ask you who you go for.
You go Clark
and I'm not gonna say a word.
Superman.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
You go Superman on.
That's right. That's right. That's right. But if you ask me coming out of my mouth, you know, because you may have somebody watching, I'm just gonna let you know I'm here to do my job. If you need anything, but understand. You know.
Okay. All right.
We know.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Sarah, for being on the show here.
She gonna throw that in. She gonna throw that
Oh
in.
yes. You know we run deep. You know we run deep.
Yes, indeed.
She probably been throwing the signs on the chat line.
No, but you know what? She wouldn't need to because she stands out just like
That's old school. See, that's old school.
That's right. Exactly. She wouldn't even have to open her mouth. I could tell by the way she carries herself.
Yes,
thank you. All right, guys, and we'll be back.